I need to turn our recording on, and I want to make sure that everyone can hear me. So go ahead and click yes or no from the poll to let me know if you can hear me. We have a smile from Sarah, so that's a good sign. Awesome, Bay, Arciad. All right. Perfect. It looks like I have lots of smiley faces, so great. Nope, you are not late, Bay. Class starts at noon Eastern Time, which is right about now. So we are all perfectly on time for class today. I just turned my camera on. Some of you were talking a little bit in the beginning, which is great. I just want to remind you that you definitely can get into class about 10 minutes early. It's a good idea to come in a few minutes early just in case we have any updates that our computers decide need to be made at that time. And then we start class right at noon. So a couple of you have already raised your hands for questions, which is great. MacArthur, your hand was up first, so we're going to let you go first, and then Sarah. So MacArthur, go ahead. What can I help you with today?
I can't write in the chat box.
You can't write in the text box. Okay, so we're going to try a couple of things. No one should be able to write on the whiteboard, which is the screen that's right diagonal from my picture because I have it locked right now. However, you should be able to write in the screen underneath all of your names that says Chatting Main Room. The way you do that is take your mouse, click on the little bottom where there's a blank spot, type your name, and then go ahead and click Send. Okay, so try that, Carter. Are you able to write there? Maybe is your keyboard not plugged in all the way? You may be able to chat to the main room. You may also be able to, might say chat to presenter. That would be just to me. See if that works. And while you're trying that, Sarah, what was your question?
We were trying to get in, but it wouldn't let us. So it took us a couple tries, but we still got in. But we got in like at 10:59, and so we finally left.
Sometimes it does take a little bit, and I honestly don't know the reason why. If you have a slower internet connection, that sometimes can have an impact. Jigsaw tries to get a quick connection because we are using video and voice. That is also why I want video off sometimes if there's no reason to see me, so that if you do have a slower connection, that usually will help. Okay, so anyone else have any questions before we go ahead and get started today? We have two things that we are going to start off with. Those two things we are starting with are your terrariums, if you would like to share them, and our projects from last week. So or your homework, I'm sorry, from last week. Now, I have not gone in and graded your homeworks. I did look at all of your homeworks, and before I give you a grade, I just want to hear your presentation to the class. Now, the way we are going to do this is I have everyone who turned in their homework up in a document. I'm going to share that with all of you. We are going to go in the order they are up here. So, Bay, you are first. When it's your turn, I will ask you if you would like your camera on. At that point, you can go ahead and show us your terrariums. So we are going to do them together. Okay, your homework and your terrariums if you would like to share your terrarium with us. So Bay, you are first. Would you like to go ahead and share your terrarium with us? In which case I will turn your camera on. Awesome. Your camera is on my end. And I see you coming. Okay, go ahead. You're going to go over your terrarium and your homework. Okay, I will go ahead and I will read your homework, and then if you want to come back on, Bay, you certainly can come back on. So Bay wrote, I hear crows. It's a lovely day because the sun is shining. I smell bees and the blackberry bushes are prickly. That was a great description of the forested area near her. Jackson, you are next. Would you like me to go ahead and do yours? Let me know if you want your camera on, Jackson. Okay, so Jackson made the observation, I saw this grassland at my house in Charlotte, Tennessee. I heard birds chirping, I saw squirrels collecting nuts, and I could smell the sweet grass. Okay, next is MacArthur. MacArthur, would you like your camera on to show us your terrarium? All right, fantastic. I clicked the button on my end. You're going to show us your terrarium, and then go ahead and read your homework for us. You just need to click the start button. Perfect, and you are on your way. Make sure you click your talk button, MacArthur, because we cannot hear you right now. Okay, now I don't see your video or hear you, so go ahead and make sure you click the start button for your video and the talk button for your voice.
This is my terrarium. The plan is a tomato plant, and I have, I think, worms.
Okay, and do you want to read your homework description for us, MacArthur? I went ahead and put it on the screen for us.
Wooded area on a farm. I smelled dead leaves and pine straw. I saw pine trees, birds, and squirrels. I heard cows mooing, birds chirping, and dogs barking.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing both your terrarium and your homework with us. Bella, you are next. Would you like to go ahead and share your homework and your terrarium? Just let me know if you want your camera on. Okay, I will go ahead and read your homework then. We have, I walked through a lot of trees. I could hear the birds chirping and the chilly wind blowing. There were squirrels and chipmunks running quickly. I especially liked the smell of being in a forest. I could smell the pine trees. Perfect job. Thank you very much, Bella. Arsad, would you like to share your homework and or your terrarium? Just let me know if you want your camera on. All right, I'm going to take your response as no, you don't want to go. Oh, okay, I said I just have to click a button on my end, and then underneath your video, where I usually go, which right now is green, click Start, and your video will come through. There you are. Go ahead and hit talk. Oh, it looks like we maybe lost our sad. So Sarah, you are next. Would you like to go ahead and share yours with us? All right, Sarah, your camera is on. Go right ahead. Do you see the button to click for Start, Sarah?
I see a lot of tall trees and river. The water is very clean and cold. And also I cannot smell anything. The wind blows gently.
All right, thank you very much, Arsad. All right, Sarah, now I have your camera selected. Underneath the video screen, do you see where it says Start? Awesome. Okay, go ahead and make sure you hit.
I could hear and see the deer running into the forest. I can smell the pine trees as I sat under the big oak tree. I could feel the leaves on the ground.
Very good. Do you want to share your terrarium with us?
Yes, please.
All right, very good. Thank you very much for sharing your terrarium, Sarah. All right. MacArthur, you can't hear anyone. If you're not able to hear us, okay, if you can hear Sarah, if you can hear me, but not Sarah. Don't worry about it. If you can't hear anybody, please log out. Okay, Xana, would you like to go ahead and share your terrarium with us? Your homework did not get loaded up in here. But would you like to share your terrarium?
Yes.
All right, I did get your homework, but it wasn't loading for me. So I am turning your camera on, and you can go ahead.
I cannot see the start button.
Did it come through now?
No.
All right, try now. If it didn't work, maybe your camera is not logged in or set up correctly.
I cannot find the talk button at all.
The start button should be underneath your video screen, but if some of the setting on your computers or tablet, whatever you're using, for some reason changed and you can't see it, then it's something that you'll have to try to fix by going down to the little wrench on the bottom. Click video setting or web camera setting and see if the correct web camera is selected, because I have selected the video on my end. So go ahead and try that and see if the start button comes up then.
It didn't, but I have my homework right here. Can I read that?
Sure, go ahead and read your homework. Perfect.
I went for a walk in the forest on the hot sunny day. I heard birds in the trees and leaves crunching under my feet, and wind blowing through the trees. I felt the warm sun on my skin, then the cool shade from the trees. I saw ants crawling on the ground and butterflies flying around. I climbed big rocks and logs.
Awesome. Thank you so bad, Xana. Thank you very much. All right, we are going to go ahead and take a look at forests today. Now, you all were supposed to go into some sort of foresty ecosystem, which are depending on where you live. So some of you, instead of going into foresty ecosystems, may have looked at the web camera I gave you. So let's take a look at what exactly a forest is. There's a definition up on your PowerPoint. A forest is an area in which the main plant that grows there are trees. There's 4 main types of forests. They are a deciduous forest, a tropical rainforest, a coastal forest, and a coniferous forest. Those are the 4 main types. A deciduous forest has large, flat leaves that drop off in the fall. New leaves grow in the spring. The leaves here change color with the seasons. And the trees that grow in this place have warm, wet summers and cold winters. The area where I live is near a deciduous forest. If you look outside my window right now, there are no leaves on the trees. There are new little tiny buds just forming, which will become new leaves in the spring. a tropical rainforest. Would anyone like to volunteer to read about tropical rainforests for me? Xana, go ahead.
These trees grow in places that are hot and wet all year. Trees are very tall and the leaves are always green. The forest has 3 layers.
Excellent job. And those 3 layers are labeled here in the diagram. We have the forest floor, where there are short plants. We have the understory, where there are taller bushes and shorter trees. And then you have a canopy, which is way up high with lots and lots of very tall trees. And all together, those 3 layers make up a tropical rainforest. I sometimes wish I lived in a tropical rainforest, especially this winter when it was so cold. Sarah, would you like to go ahead and read this one?
Yes.
All right, go ahead, Sarah.
Grows in places where there are lots of rain. Temperatures is not too hot or too cold, just cool. Their trees has their layers just like the rainforest. Cannot put. I don't know that word.
That's fine. It has 3 layers, just like the rainforest. And those 3 layers are the canopy, understory, and forest floor. Thank you very much, Sarah, for reading for me. The coastal forests are found on or near the coasts of continents. Their temperatures are not too hot, not too cold, just kind of cool. And you don't get all of the leaves falling off like you do in deciduous forests. And the last is a coniferous forest. Anyone who has not read, like to read this one for me? Jackson, go right ahead.
Grows in places with very cold winters and cool summers. The leaves look like needles and they don't need very much water. Seeds grow in cones, get less rain than all other rainforests. Than all other forests.
Very, very good. Sarah, you have a question. Thank you for reading, Jackson.
When he was reading, my microphone was crackling.
I'm not sure why that would happen. Hopefully it stops happening. All right, great job on the different forest types. All of these forests have something in common. They all, well, most of them, have leaves on their trees. Now, by a show of smiley faces, how many of you have ever done some leaf collecting and examined some different types of leaves? If you have, give me a smile face. If you have not, go ahead and give me a frown. All right, awesome. Okay, MacArthur wants to try to show his terrarium quick. So before we go talk about leaves, we'll let MacArthur try again. MacArthur, underneath your video screen, go ahead and click the start button and see if we can get your video to come through. It's on the top left-hand screen. All right, I can see you. Go ahead, MacArthur. All right, thank you, MacArthur. Your video keeps pausing, so I'm going to have to turn it off, but I did see your plant, and it looked like maybe you were trying to show us the bottom of your screen. Maybe there's a worm in there you were trying to share with us. And Jackson, if you want to go ahead and show your, go right ahead. Underneath your video screen, go ahead and click Start. Do you see the Start button underneath the black video screen, Jackson, to share your video with us? Oh, there you go.
This is my onion plant, and I got it from my front yard.
Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Jackson and MacArthur. It's always great to see your project. Now, you guys, just generally speaking, keep these terrariums. We are going to look at them each class next couple of weeks. So let's get back to leaf collecting. And most of you gave me a little smiley face that you have done some leaf collecting. So leaves, collecting leaves, are one of the main things scientists use to identify trees. The first step in tree identification is knowing that there are always distinguishing characteristics that separate one tree species from another. Anyone want to take a guess at what some of these characteristics could be? What makes one tree different from another? Jackson, give me one idea.
Some leaves have pointy ends.
Awesome. Some leaves have pointy ends. Sarah, one idea about how you can tell two trees apart.
Like, one could have, like, maybe one could be an evergreen, and one could be, like, just like a regular tree that's not an evergreen.
Okay, very good. One could be an evergreen tree, and one could not be an evergreen tree. Those definitely would be two distinguishing characteristics. This has an idea of a distinguishing characteristic. I only want to hear one per person. So, Xana, let me hear yours.
Shape.
Very good. The shape of the tree. Fantastic. Anyone have anything else? All right. Well, one of the main ways and one of the questions that scientists may ask themselves is the tree deciduous or coniferous? Coniferous means it does not lose its needles. Deciduous means it does lose its needles. So that is probably question number 1. Deciduous trees lose their leaves before the cold or the dry season. Before the leaves fall off, they often turn orange, red, or yellow, but new leaves will appear again in the spring. Deciduous trees also have a type of fruit or pod that holds a seed. Coniferous trees have small, waxy leaves, usually called needles. Most conifers keep their leaves all year long. The seed in the conifers are usually found in a cone of some sort. Scientists refer to the seed of conifers as naked seeds because they are not enclosed in anything. After you've decided if your tree is a conifer or is coniferous or deciduous, you look farther. So we're going to look farther and try to describe our trees that are coniferous. So after we've decided the tree is a conifer, the next step is to look at the leaves or the needles. There are two main things: a needle-shaped tree, which is like the spruce tree in the beginning here, or a white cedar tree, which does not have needle-shaped leaves. Okay, and you can look at the difference between the two. If the leaves are scaly, which means they're not needle-shaped, you have identified a cedar. That's the type of tree. If your leaves are needle-shaped, you have to determine if they are single, grouped, or clustered. If they are singled, it looks like the first picture here. If they are grouped, it looks like the middle picture. And if they are clustered, it looks like the right-hand side picture. If it's a single needle, it means you have a spruce, a fir, or a hemlock. And here's two examples up here. Does anyone know if they have any fir or spruce trees in their yard? Go ahead and raise your hand if you think you do. Nice, perfect. Awesome, a couple of you. If you have grouped needles, those are pine trees. And the way you tell the difference between the three main pines, a white pine, a red pine, and a jack pine, is how many needles are in their groupings and how long those needles are. White pines have 5 needles per group. Red pines have 2 needles per group. Jack pines have 2 short and twisted needles per group. Now let's take a look at deciduous trees. Raise your hand if you have deciduous trees in your yard or in an area by your house. All right, very good. Deciduous trees have either alternate or opposite branching. And if you look at the pictures here, there's both an actual picture and some diagram, a diagram of each. Now you have to decide if you have a simple or a compound leaf once you've decided what type of branches you have. Simple leaves are shown on the left-hand side, and compound leaves are shown on the right-hand side. I have examples of both of these types of leaves in my yard. You can also look at the different types of veins in leaves. Now, just like you have veins that run through your body, leaves have veins that run through them. The veins of a leaf can be called palmate or pinnate. Now, the easy way to remember this is palmate veins, to me, look like the palm of a hand. They are very, very wide and sort of have finger-like points coming off of them. Pinnate veins are very straight, almost like a pin. So that's the difference between the two types of leaf veins or leaf veination. If you have ever done a crayon drawing where you take a piece of paper, put it over top of a leaf, and you do a leaf rubbing, what you are rubbing is the veination or the veins of your leaf. Now you need to determine if your leaves are lobed or not lobed. Lobed leaves have long lobes or long wisps coming off of them. Not lobed leaves are either oval or circular in shape. So, we have done lots of looking and thinking about different types of leaves and trees. Most leaves and trees fall into one of these two categories, but there definitely are some unique ones and unique features. Okay, and we are going to take a look at these pictures. There are two different or additional characteristics. Your leaf can be toothed or smooth. The base of your leaf can be flat, sort of like a flat sheet of paper, uneven or heart-shaped. And your tree could have a unique type of bark. Go ahead and raise your hand if you were able to get a stick and have it with you for class today. Awesome. Okay, well, if you have a stick, go get your stick, if it's not by your computer. Get your magnifying glass if you have it. And we are going to take a look at your stick. If you do not have a stick with you in class today, just kind of follow along. It's going to be kind of hard for you to see because what we are going to be looking at is so close up. So if you have a stick that you got from outside, and Sarah, I believe you raised your hand, can you describe to everyone what the bark of your stick looks like, feels like, what color it is? Give us some good observations about the stick you have.
My stick feels rough, and you get stuff on your hands after it, like dirt, and it's like a blackish gray, and it's got green stuff in it, and it's got little stems coming off of it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Xana, I believe you had your hand up too. Can you describe what the bark of your stick looks like to us?
It feels rough and a little smooth. It's black and white and a little orange.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Now, those were some great descriptions. Jackson, did you have a stick too? I would love to hear your description as well. I'm not able to hear you talking, Jackson. I see that you pushed the button, but no volume is coming through. Can you go ahead and go look at the orange wrench down on the bottom left-hand side of your screen? Make sure the correct microphone is selected and that it's not muted. And then go ahead and try again for us. All right, it looks like he's done. So what I want you guys to do now is, if you have your stick, take your magnifying glass and hold it up to the bottom part of your stick. Wherever it is that you took, let me see if I can get this for you. Wherever it is that you took that stick and disconnected it from the tree. That's what I want you to look at. Can someone who has a magnifying glass in their stick describe what you are seeing? Any volunteers? Sarah, go ahead.
My stick looks like it was like almost like fresh wood, just about, and it looks like it got took off on both ends, especially this end. And it's like a goldish color, just about, and it's got one hoop in it.
Perfect. Now, by one hoop, what I think Sarah is referring to is, and go ahead and take a look at your whiteboard screen. I'm going to draw a picture up here for you guys. If we have a stick, and the side of the stick is this blue, sort of rough bark. Okay, this is the bark. And we're going to label it bark. Okay, the next thing, or the next inner layer, there are going to be rings. These rings inside of our stick are called growth rings. Now, growth rings are going to tell us how old this plant is, or this tree is. If you have a woody plant, so this won't work if you have a piece of grass, or it won't work if you have the onion that I believe Jackson was growing. It will only work if it is hard. You have growth rings. If there is one growth ring like that, it is 1 year old. You have a second growth ring, your tree is 2. And inside, here, and here, is the hard wood of the tree. And anyone have any questions about what the inside of the branch should look like? And again, I apologize, my camera's not showing up very well. Sarah, go ahead.
But Mom, like, my branch, it's got one hoop in it, but it's got this old bark on it.
That's a very interesting observation you just made. And your observation was that it has this old bark on it. Well, that bark probably isn't really that old. Each tree and each species of tree has a unique type of bark. Even if that tree is very young, the bark could look old and baggy or worn. And you have to remember that trees sit out in the sun all day. The wind, they can be worn by animals. If you have deer in your yard, there can be rubbings on the trees where the deer will actually scrape off parts of the bark of the tree. So that's a great observation, but it probably isn't that the tree is old or the piece of bark is old. It probably is more likely that it is a species of tree where it looks old. One of the questions I always ask when I talk about the forest and leaves and trees is, why do leaves change colors? Anyone have a good answer to that? Raise your hand if you think you have a good answer. Sarah, let's hear it.
Because of the seasons change, that's why the leaves change, because the seasons change.
It definitely has to do with the seasons changing, correct. If we go ahead and look up at our PowerPoint screen, there's a slide up there that says, why do leaves change color? Leaves are nature's food factories. The leaves, or plants, take water from the ground in through their roots. They take carbon dioxide and use sunlight to turn water and carbon dioxide into glucose. The plants use glucose as food, and this whole process is known as photosynthesis. Now, my guess is that you have all heard of photosynthesis before. And you know that plants need to be in the sunlight in order to grow. Which is why when we started our terrariums last week, I said to make sure you give it water and put it near the sun. So here's a leaf. There's sunlight coming down and hitting the leaf. That leaf is absorbing carbon dioxide. And water is being taken through the branch, and it is making glucose right there in that leaf. You may be saying, what does this have to do with leaves changing color? Well, all of this happens because of a chemical called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll allows photosynthesis to take place, and chlorophyll gives plants their green color. So what happens in the winter? Not even for plants, but just in general, the days get shorter. So in places like Connecticut, where I live, days are shorter. There is less sunlight. There is not enough sunlight for photosynthesis. So trees rest. They don't do as much growing. They don't produce, apple trees don't produce apples. They go into sort of a dormant state. And they live off of the food that they have stored. As these food factories shut down, chlorophyll disappears from the leaves. Now remember, the chlorophyll is green. As the green fades away, we see yellow and oranges appear. The bright red and the bright purple are from the glucose trapped inside the leaves after the photosynthesis stops. The brown that some leaves turn is made by wastes left in the leaves. This equation is a chemical equation that you're going to see a lot in your science career. Does anyone know what the CO2, it's the equation for photosynthesis, but does anybody know what the CO2 stands for? Raise your hand if you know what the CO2, Xana, go ahead.
Carbon dioxide.
Awesome. That CO2 is carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide plus H2O. What is H2O? Xana, go ahead.
Water.
Very good, water. So far we have carbon dioxide plus water plus light from the sun. Then there's an arrow. That arrow is yields, or in English, gives us. And then there's two things. It gives us CH2O plus O2. Does anyone know what the CH2O or the O2 stands for? The CH2O is glucose, or the sugars, and the O2 is oxygen. So what plants do when they make photosynthesis is they take carbon dioxide plus water plus light, and they gives them glucose, which they use for energy, and oxygen. Any idea why this is important to us? That's great that that's how plants get their food, but any idea why photosynthesis might be important to you and me? Or your cat? Or any animal? What do you need to survive? Okay, plants use carbon dioxide, water, and light to make energy. You do something each time you breathe. Bay, what do you do? I didn't hear you, Bay. Sarah, what do you do every time you breathe in?
You suck in air.
Awesome. You breathe in air, which is made up of oxygen that plants give off during photosynthesis. So plants give off oxygen, and you need to breathe in oxygen in order to survive. Okay, so here is a little fact. What do autumn leaves and ripening bananas have in common? Well, the green color in unripe bananas, so bananas you might buy right from the store, or that, depending where you live, might be hanging on a tree, comes from chlorophyll. The same pigment that gives green leaves their color. As bananas ripen, the chlorophyll breaks down and disappears, revealing the yellow color which has been there all along. It's the same with leaves. When the trees or the plants go dormant, the green from the chlorophyll goes away. Sometimes you will see a yellow leaf. Okay, so great job with that fun fact. We are now going to take a look at your whiteboard. And you guys are going to do some writing. We've talked about two types of ecosystems. We've talked about grassy ecosystems last week. And we have talked about forest ecosystems this week. In the appropriate or in the correct rectangle, give me some examples of plants or animals, and we didn't get to the forest animals today, so we will get to them next week. Plants or animals that live in these ecosystems. Or some characteristics of them, characteristics of the ecosystems. So I may write trees. Oh, someone wrote squirrels. Great job. You all should be able to write up here, so go ahead and put a couple comments. Okay, the forest is what we talked about this week, but what did we talk about last week? All right, fantastic job. A lot of these organisms could go on both sides. Like, for example, we have deer. Deer could be over here as well. Insects could be both spots. Birds could be in both spots. Deer again. Trees, there aren't many trees in the grassy ecosystems, but we have worms and blue jays and the sun. Awesome, whoever put that one up there. Look, that can go in both spots. We have pines, good job. Deer again, fantastic. We have squirrels, thank you, that could go in both spots. We have a fox that could go in both spots. So great job coming up with those lists. Now, like I said, next week we are going to finish forest because we did not get a chance to really talk about the forest animals today, which I was hoping to do. But we are also going to start talking about water ecosystems next week. Streams, lakes, ponds, not the ocean. Sorry, my cat's in the way here. Freshwater ecosystems. So your homework tonight for this week is to do a very similar activity to what you did last week, except instead of observing a grassland or a forest ecosystem, you are going to observe a water ecosystem. Unfortunately, that's the end of class for today. I hope you guys have a great day. If you have any questions, remember you can give me a call, send me an email. Otherwise, I will see you all next Tuesday at noon.